What's up, you guys? I'm Ted, the tall techie, and today we're going to do a review on the Moto G5 Plus. Now, I think this may be the best secondary phone that anyone could have. Now, I know that sounds like an insult, but it's not. I think that this phone is incredible, and I think that they've done some amazing things on quite the budget. Let's take a look at what makes this phone so great as a secondary device, and or if you want to use it as a primary budget device in the $200 to $300 range. So one of the first things that I really love about this phone that makes it super versatile as a secondary device and or a primary device is that you can use it on any major carrier network in the States. So if you have a device and you need to switch out a SIM card or you need to switch to a different network, you can do that at any time. You need to let your buddy or your friend or your fiance or anyone borrow your phone, then they can borrow your phone and they can just swap their SIM card in, and makes it super convenient for anyone to use the device if they need to, or for something like an emergency, which could be really important. Another thing that I really like about this device is the battery life. So the phone itself has a 3000 milliamp battery in it, which is pretty standard for a lot of phones these days on the market. But for some reason with this device, I've gotten over a day of full use. So I've gotten sometimes close to 2 full days of heavy business usage where I'm using the phone for multiple hours in a row, either browsing Reddit or watching YouTube videos. So whatever Motorola has done with the phone has made it incredibly resilient to losing battery. I think part of that is the display. Obviously, it's not going to have a display like a lot of the other flagship models currently on the market, like the LG G6 or the Samsung S8, which is coming out this weekend. So the phone has 2 different models, a 32 gigabyte model and a 64 gigabyte model. Now, the 32 gigabyte model is $230. The difference between the two is only $70, with the 64 gigabyte version being $300, but the difference that you get is actually relatively immense. So most of the specs on the phone stay the same, except for one crucial one, and that's the RAM. So on the $230 model, you get 2 gigabytes of RAM, and on the 64 gigabyte model, you get 4 gigs of RAM. So that makes a big difference as far as the snappiness of the phone and the fact that it's not running on necessarily the most powerful or flagship level chip on the market. The phone runs on a really nicely skinned version of Nougat 7, which is a normal, very, very natural Android interface. So that feels totally familiar. On a really nice 1080p display. It's not AMOLED or anything like that, of course, but it does run on the same resolution as an iPhone 7, so it's not as flashy and it doesn't look quite as good or as clean as the iPhone 7 or some of the other flagship Android models, but it does look really nice, and for the price that you're paying, it does feel really, really good. The back camera is 12 megapixels and it can actually shoot 4K video at 30 frames a second. And I actually really like a ton of the features that are in the camera settings, like the professional mode is really cool because you can adjust lighting effects and you can adjust a bunch of things that you can use while you're on the go. The front camera is 5 megapixels of garbage, and it's definitely not going to be a phone that you would want to Skype with or video call with. Another thing that I do really like about the phone is that it has micro SD support up to 128 gigabits. It runs on the Qualcomm Snapdragon 625 processor at 2 gigahertz, which is not the fastest or flagship level processor on the market, but it does feel fine for everyday tasks and it doesn't feel laggy at all in use. I haven't noticed anything in minimal use gaming either. So I think the design of the phone is actually quite good. It is an aluminum body, which makes it feel nice and premium in a lot of ways, but it doesn't have necessarily the same aesthetic appeal that something like the iPhone 7 or the Google Pixel or the G6 by LG or Samsung S8 has. So it doesn't really have the same swag or luxury feel that some of those phones have, but it does feel super solid and well built. Another thing that I would have really liked to have seen on this phone, due to the ports that it has on it, since it only has a micro SD card reader, the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, and then the regular micro USB cable for charging, is I would have really liked to have seen them make it more water resistant than it is. It says that it's water repellent, but I would not drop this in a pool like you can do with the Samsung S8 for sure. And then the last thing that I would really like to see from the G5 Plus, and this is super silly, but I would really like to see an improvement of like the colors that they supply with the device. So I have the lunar gray and I like that, and they have a gold model, but it would be really nice, just based on how basic and kind of plain the phone is in the aesthetic look, if they were able to design some more colors or variations that you could put into picking kind of what you want. And there's not a lot of companies that are going to do a skin on this phone because it's not as popular as a bunch of the flagships or anything like that. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and if you guys don't mind dropping a like or a subscription, I would be super appreciative. Let me know what you'd like me to review in the future, and I hope this review was helpful. I think that this is a great phone, especially if you want to use it as a device that you keep in your backpack or you keep in your travel case so that you make sure that you have an extra phone, or just if you're looking for a phone that's in the $200 to $300 range. I don't think that there's a better phone on the market. I think that it's really a fantastic device, and congrats to Motorola for doing such a good job on designing a smartphone that is in a lot of ways capable of competing with a lot of the flagships, other than on an aesthetic level, and has done a fantastic job. So thank you guys again so much, and have a nice day.